Hey there, sleepyheads. Welcome back to Boring History for Sleep, where we gently unspool the tapestry of the past not to thrill you, but to lull you into a calm, thoughtful drift. Tonight we journey back to a time when life, even at its most opulent, held its own peculiar burdens, a gilded cage where privilege was both a blessing and a relentless, often painful curse. As you settle deeper into the quiet of this evening, perhaps consider a gentle tap on the subscribe button and a soft like on the video. Only of course if these historical whispers find a welcome place in your thoughts, and feel free to share a quiet hello in the comments below letting us know where you're drifting from tonight. Allow your mind to softly drift as we journey back to the English countryside of 1398, where the rigid lines of society dictated everything, and even a lord seemingly at the pinnacle of existence knew a kind of suffering all his own. The year is 1398, and the heart of the English countryside breathes with the rhythms of a world vastly different from your own. Society is a towering, unyielding edifice, rigidly stratified, where the very fabric of existence is dictated by the accident of your birthright. You find yourself embodying the pinnacle of this feudal system as Lord William Thornbrook, a man whose immense wealth and influence are almost palpable, echoing through the very stones of your grand manor. This isn't just a house, it's a fortified statement, a testament to your power, your privilege and your unshakable place in this world. Yet as the quiet dawn paints the sky outside your lofty windows, you learn quickly that even at this elevated station, life is far from an unburdened idyll. Instead, it's a delicate, constant balancing act, maintaining your status against the relentless whispers of ambition and envy, managing a myriad of obligations that stretch from the farthest reaches of your lands to the deepest corners of your conscience, and perpetually contending with the harsh, often paradoxical realities that wealth itself could impose. Within this stark macro-reality, the personal experiences of daily life for a medieval lord unfold into a unique tapestry of challenges. These often contrast sharply with the desperate visceral struggles of the common folk, those who toil in your fields and depend on your favour, revealing a profound if uncomfortable truth: no life, however privileged, however cushioned by silk and stone, is entirely immune to suffering. Indeed, for you, Lord William, the most immediate and visceral worst thing about being rich manifests not in grand political intrigues but in the quiet rebellion of your own body, particularly through its revolt against the very excesses that signify your status. As the foundational realities of medieval England have now gently set our stage, you find the most immediate and visceral worst thing about being rich manifesting in the very fabric of your daily existence, particularly through the body's revolt against the kind of excess that others can only dream of. Your grand stone manor nestled deep in the English countryside isn't just a home. It's a fortress of comfort boasting luxuries that the vast majority of people, your tenants, the local villagers, would never even conceive of. Beneath your heavy wool blankets, you feel the soft give of a feather-stuffed mattress, a palpable luxury that cushions you from the raw, hard ground that forms the peasant's world. You know without really wanting to dwell on it that their straw pallets, coarse and often teeming with fleas and bedbugs, are a world away from your plush repose. You can hear the quiet creak of fine timber floors underfoot as your servant moves about, a muted echo within the thick stone walls that provides you a sense of private sanctuary. Compare this, if you will, to the close, damp and smoky confines of a peasant's thatched hut, where every sound carries every sniffle, every argument, every rustle of straw, and the earthy, unvarnished smell of packed dirt mingles perpetually with hearth ash and the lingering scent of unwashed bodies. Your home, by contrast, filters the morning sunlight, casting long dusty beams across your chamber, a gentle dance of light that often leaves other parts of the interior dimly lit even at midday. These robust stone structures, thick as they are, offer significant defence, but can still be terribly permeable to the pervasive winter chills demanding constant hungry hearth fires to ward off the penetrating cold that leaves delicate fern-like ice patterns on your window panes, a cruel beauty that reminds you of the chill outside. Your luxury, you see, extends far beyond the stone walls and feather beds, seeping into the most intimate aspects of your personal care. Each morning a servant brings you a basin of water, not just any water, but rose-scented water, warm and fragrant for washing your face and hands. It's a ritual of cleanliness that, while practical, most of your food you'll find is eaten with fingers, is also deeply symbolic of your elevated status. This gentle perfume cleansing stands in stark contrast to the more rudimentary, often cold washes common among the commoners. For them, basic cleanliness isn't a matter of scented indulgence, but a constant struggle for resources and negotiation with the limited, often chilly water from the well or stream. You recognise this difference not as a judgment, but as a simple, unvarnished truth of your world. As the warm water touches your skin, you're reminded of the small, almost imperceptible ways your life differs, an accumulating collection of comforts that forms a protective, if sometimes stifling, cocoon around you. Once washed, your daily attire awaits laid out by your personal attendants. You wear fine wool tunics dyed with colours that are expensive and difficult to achieve, deep blues from Flanders, rich greens from costly vegetable dyes. These garments are lined with silk, often imported from distant exotic lands, a whisper soft touch against your skin. The process of dressing is meticulous, a daily ceremony that requires the careful hands of servants, underscoring your complete removal from manual labour. You're not fumbling with buttons or struggling with laces. You're presented adorned and prepared. Yet even in this tableau of opulent comfort, the worst thing about your privileged life makes its undeniable appearance. You watch as your soft leather shoes, painstakingly crafted, and usually a mark of refined elegance, are brought forward. They aren't standard issue. They've been specially modified with slits and extra leather carefully worked in to accommodate your swollen, gout-afflicted toe. It throbs faintly, a dull ache that reminds you of its presence, a constant companion. This specialised, costly comfort, tailored precisely to alleviate the pain of your ailment, is a vivid physical manifestation of the very excesses that define your status. It's a quiet irony, you realise, that the solutions to your suffering are themselves further examples of your extraordinary wealth. You, Lord William, require custom-made footwear for a condition brought on, in part by a life of leisure and indulgence, a testament to the peculiar and often painful burdens that even the most enviable positions can impose. This constant physical reminder, a quiet pain in your foot, underscores the intricate and often contradictory nature of noble existence, setting the stage for more subtle yet equally pervasive challenges. Even as dusk settles over your manor, bringing a different kind of quiet, your privileged existence continues to manifest in subtle sensory refinements. While peasants, after a long day of back-breaking labour, would rely on crude rush lights made from animal fat, casting a dim, smoky flicker, and emitting a rather unpleasant odour, you enjoy the warm glow of wax candles. These expensive luxuries, forbidden to commoners by their very cost, cast a soft, steady light across your chambers, filling the air with a faint, sweet smell of honey and beeswax. It's a small detail, perhaps, but one that profoundly enhances an environment already designed for ease and relaxation rather than harsh endurance. This gentle illumination allows you to read your precious books, to contemplate, or simply to rest your eyes without the harsh glare or acrid smoke that others endure. The contrast in daily rhythms is perhaps even more striking. While peasants rise before dawn, driven by the relentless demands of arduous physical labour, tilling fields, tending livestock, mending fences, a constant battle against the elements, and the necessities of survival, you, Lord William, often sleep well past sunrise. Your day doesn't begin with the bite of cold air and the immediate demand for physical exertion. Instead, it commences with servants attending to your personal needs, a leisurely awakening that reflects a life largely removed from the earthbound toil of your tenants. This sedentary, noble lifestyle, cushioned by every available comfort, coupled with the opulent diet that forms a cornerstone of your existence, is, you've come to realise, directly linked to the flourishing of your gout. It's a cruel irony, a silent pact between your privilege and your pain. Your body, Master Gilbert, your physician often reminds you with a nearly imperceptible sigh, simply wasn't designed for such an unceasing life of luxury, a life where physical exertion is optional and abundance is the norm. And yet, even within the nobility, the burdens of daily life are distributed, if not always equally, then certainly with varying emphasis. While your external focus often rests on politics, land management and judicial duties, Lady Elelanina, your wife, carries a formidable weight of her own. Her day often begins before dawn, a hidden, often invisible labour that complements your external concerns. She oversees the entire household, a sprawling enterprise of servant supplies and intricate logistics. She manages the staff, ensures the smooth operation of the vast estate review's accounts, with a keen eye for detail, and navigates the complex social calendars and expectations that define noble life. Her demanding role is a constant, often thankless process of management and foresight, a testament to the fact that even for the nobility, life is a tapestry woven with duty and responsibility, though of a different thread. The gentle creak of the floorboards, the soft glow of candles, the ease of your rising, all these elements, while comfortable, exist within a framework of hidden efforts and underlying tensions, each contributing to the peculiar gilded cage of noble existence. Now let us turn to the very heart of your noble existence. The daily meals, a lavish display of abundance that is both a statement of your power, and you are coming to realize the source of your physical torment. Your table groans with roasted meats, venison, boar, beef, carved with practiced precision, alongside game birds like pheasant and partridge and fresh fish, often from your own ponds or nearby rivers, swimming in rich, elaborate sauces. Each dish is a potent statement of your wealth, your capacity to command resources and your influence. Fine wines imported from France or the Rhineland flow freely, their complex bouquets filling the air. And of course, there are sweet confections, delicate pastries and tarts made with expensive imported sugar, a luxury that speaks volumes about your ability to transcend local limitations. This isn't just sustenance. It's a full sensory explosion, an overwhelming experience of aromas, flavours and textures that becomes a recurring indulgence, and one you now know directly contributes to your suffering. You, Lord William, sit at the centre of this culinary spectacle, the very symbol of its excess. Then comes the stark, unwelcome reality. After a particularly vicious gout attack, the kind that leaves your foot feeling as though it's been set ablaze, Master Gilbert, your university-trained physician, delivers his harsh prescription. It's a diet of almost monastic simplicity, a jarring contrast to your usual fare. Bland barley water replaces rich wines, plain peasant bread, though thankfully of a higher quality than that consumed by your tenants, becomes your staple. Boiled chicken served without its skin, and later more fish and vegetables with watered wine are your new, unappetizing companions. The bitter taste of poppy tincture used to dull the agony becomes a frequent unwelcome guest in your mouth, a physical reminder of your pain. And then there's the strange taste of autumn crocus, a potent herbal remedy also prescribed by Master Gilbert, its unfamiliar flavour a direct echo of the consequences of your usual rich diet. These remedies, you learn, are as unpleasant as they are necessary, a constant tangible link between your self-indulgence and your subsequent suffering. The visual contrast during feasts is particularly pointed. You often host guests, and the great hall is filled with the aroma of rich meat, pastries, succulent roasted fowl, and spiced custards. Yet while your guests feast on these extravagant dishes, your own plate, specially prepared, holds only boiled chicken or simply prepared fish with a few bland herbs. This stark juxtaposition isn't lost on you, nor you suspect on your astute wife Lady Elelanina, who arranges these discreet substitutions. It vividly highlights the direct, undeniable link between your customary diet and the painful ailment that afflicts you. The delicious smells wafting from the next platter, the clinking of glasses, the hearty laughter of your guests all serve as a subtle yet constant reminder of the very things you must now deny yourself, a peculiar form of self-imposed deprivation amidst surrounding abundance. In stark contrast to your enforced simpler fare, you cast your mind to the diets of your peasants. Their sustenance is typically simple, often monotonous. They subsist primarily on grains, barley, rye, oats used to make coarse bread, pottage and gruel. Vegetables from their gardens or foraged from the fields form another cornerstone of their diet. Meat, if it appears at all, is an occasional luxury, perhaps a bit of salted pork or a scrawny chicken, or even foraged wild game during lean times, never the lavish roasts that grace your table. Their bodies, you observe, are hardened by relentless physical labour, efficiently processing what little they consume, accumulating none of the uric humour, as Master Gilbert refers to it, that plagues your joints. Their lives dictated by the turning of the seasons, face dwindling stores and severe scarcity during the unforgiving winter months, a struggle for survival that you and your manor can scarcely comprehend in its raw intensity. The long-term dietary adjustments that Master Gilbert has prescribed, and which you have now resolved to adopt, represent a significant and profoundly difficult departure from established noble customs. More fish, fewer game birds and organ meats, less wine. These are not merely dietary changes. They're a challenge to your very identity as a lord. The social expectations, the cultural rituals surrounding noble feasting are deeply ingrained. To deviate too much is to risk appearing weak, diminished, or even miserly. Yet the direct searing pain of a gout attack and the practical, undeniable wisdom of your physician weigh heavily on your resolve. This isn't just about food. It's about a redefinition of your relationship with abundance, a quiet rebellion against the very tenets of noble consumption that have shaped your entire life. The irony of your affluence then becomes undeniably clear. The article, as it were, explicitly links your sedentary lifestyle and your sumptuous diet directly to the flourishing of your gout. There's no ambiguity, no room for denial. Master Gilbert, with his quiet, knowing gaze, has stated it plainly. It is precisely what has brought you to this state, my lord. Your body, you see, was not designed for such luxury. You recall his words, delivered with a gentle firmness that belied their harsh truth. You, Lord William, a man of immense privilege, find your greatest torment springing from the very source of your prosperity. While your peasants face malnutrition, you face the poison of abundance. While they are hardened by toil, you're softened by ease, and that softness makes you vulnerable to this cruel internal fire. This profound paradox, this silent scream from your own body, serves as a constant humbling reminder that wealth, far from being a universal cure, can instead inflict its own unique, often agonizing forms of suffering, a suffering that the common folk in their simple lives are spared. This internal struggle you find extends beyond your body shaping, even the early experiences of your children, preparing them too for their fixed roles in this intricate world. Now let us turn our gaze to the peculiar journey of childhood within your noble world, a journey meticulously designed not for unfettered exploration, but for the preparation of a fixed and preordained role. Unlike the common folk, your older children, those who will eventually inherit your legacy and bear the Thornbrook name are typically not kept within the comforting, if sometimes stifling embrace of your own manor. Instead, they are sent away often to other noble households for what is known as a fostering arrangement. This practice, which might seem cold or distant by modern sensibilities, is deemed absolutely essential in your era. It's a strategic move designed not only for their education, but crucially for building vital connections within the intricate web of noble families. They learn the customs, the etiquette, the political machinations of other powerful houses forging bonds that will serve your lineage for generations. This arrangement, you understand, creates an emotional distance from their birth parents, a quiet separation often filled with longing, but it is nonetheless seen as a necessary crucible for developing character resilience and those all-important social and political ties. You might feel a pang of absence, a quiet yearning for their boisterous presence, but you know it is for the best, for the continuation of all that you represent. This noble training is, of course, sharply gender-specific, reflecting the rigid roles society has carved out. For your daughters, this fostering might involve entry into a convent, not necessarily for a life of religious devotion, but for an education that emphasises literacy, needlework, household management, and the refined graces befitting a lady. More often, however, it's a preparation for marriage alliances, where their virtue, their dowry, and their connections will be strategically deployed to secure or elevate your family status. Your sons, meanwhile, follow a different, more martial path. They begin as pages, learning humility and service, then progress to squires, training in arms horsemanship, and the chivalric code, all in preparation for the ultimate honour of knighthood. Each path you recognise is not a choice, but a strategic imperative, meticulously chosen to secure lineage, solidify status, and perpetuate the power of your house. When you glance across the solar, catching the quiet pleasure of watching your two youngest children at play, their laughter echoing softly off the stone walls, it underscores the quiet truth that your older children are often absent, their innocent joy replaced by the strategic calculus of their placement in other noble homes. This fleeting moment of domestic bliss serves as a poignant reminder of the structured, often detached nature of noble family life. You, Lord William, were fortunate to receive an education in a monastery school as a youth. This privilege granted you literacy, a valuable skill not universal even among the nobility. It's an advantage you've leveraged in managing your vast estate, in negotiating with merchants, and in understanding the intricate politics of the realm. Your few precious books, a collection of religious texts, detailed estate management manuals, and even some ancient Roman writings, offer you intellectual solace, a quiet refuge from the demands of your position. This knowledge, far beyond the reach of any peasant, is another marker of your unique status, a silent companion in your moments of contemplation, yet another subtle thread in the complex tapestry of your gilded life, a life built on a foundation of inherited privilege and meticulously cultivated skills. In stark contrast to your own formal education and the strategic fostering of your noble offspring, you observe the childhoods unfolding in the villages nestled within your lands. Peasant children remain with their parents from an early age, their education a far more practical and visceral affair. There are no monastery schools for them, no tutors or fine books. Instead, they learn by doing, working alongside their parents in the fields, the byres and the homes, absorbing the rhythms of agricultural life through constant hands-on experience. They learn to plough, to sow, to harvest, to tend to the meagre livestock, to mend clothes, to prepare simple meals, and to perform the countless small tasks essential for their family's survival. This is a vocational learning direct and immediate indispensable for their future roles within the agrarian economy that forms the bedrock of your wealth, and indeed the entire realm. Their laughter, when it comes, is often amidst the dust and toil of the farmyard, their bonds forged in shared labour and the quiet struggles of daily existence. Both noble and peasant childhoods, you realise, are meticulously designed not for individual freedom or personal ambition in the modern sense, but to prepare individuals for their fixed places within the rigid hierarchy of medieval society. From the moment of birth, your world is a finely tuned machine, and each person is destined for a specific cog. For your children, it's about understanding the weight of their name, the extent of their lands, and the expectations of their class, a life of command and responsibility, of strategic alliances and political manoeuvring. For the peasant children, it's about understanding the land, the seasons, the necessity of hard work, and the absolute dependence on their lord's protection and justice. Each is born into a role, into a set of duties that they are expected to fulfill from a young age with little room for deviation. This isn't just a social structure, it's the air everyone breathes, the unquestioned truth of existence. The world as you know it is a great chain of being, and everyone has their appointed link. Beyond the direct physical toll that your abundant life extracts, you begin to grasp that perhaps the most profound, worst thing about being rich is the intricate, almost invisible web of social expectations and cultural norms that dictates how one must live. It's a constant performance, often at great personal cost, demanding a relentless suppression of genuine emotion and a constant adherence to a prescribed script. You, Lord William, are not simply an individual. You're a living symbol, and every action, every gesture is scrutinized, weighed, and judged. This intricate social fabric, the culture, the etiquette, the very nature of relationships forms a kind of invisible prison, a gilded cage built not of iron bars but of unspoken rules and the crushing weight of reputation. It dictates your every interaction, transforming what might seem like simple conversation into a perilous minefield of potential missteps. You find yourself navigating this minefield daily with a practiced, weary grace that belies the intense internal effort. Within the gilded confines of your noble existence, communication is far from a straightforward exchange of ideas. It is, you quickly learn, a subtle, often treacherous dance dictated by an omnipresent hierarchy. Medieval society thrives on clear delineations of rank, and these lines permeate every verbal and non-verbal interaction. You're acutely aware of who speaks when who defers to whom, and the specific etiquette of address that must be observed. A servant, for instance, bows deeply, avoiding direct eye contact, their words humble and brief. A baron might address you with polite deference, but with an underlying assumption of his own standing. Even the phrasing of a request, the tilt of a head, or the slight dip of a curtsy, all are carefully calibrated signals in this intricate social language. To miss these cues, to misinterpret a gesture, or to speak out of turn is not merely awkward. It's a potential social misstep, a breach of decorum that could in extreme cases invite chaos or signal disrespect, undermining alliances and authority. The peril of expressing a strong opinion or conveying sensitive information is a constant, subtle pressure. You learn quickly that speaking your mind requires extreme caution and a practiced deference, especially when addressing your social superiors or navigating delicate political waters. A wrong tone, an ill-considered word, or an overly direct statement can have severe social or political consequences, potentially alienating allies, offending powerful figures, or even sparking dangerous rumours. Because of this, silence often becomes the safest, most prudent path, a shield against unintended repercussions. You become adept at nuanced phrasing, at speaking without truly revealing, at offering polite generalities that mask deeper thoughts or concerns. It's a skill born of necessity, a constant vigilance against the verbal traps that litter the noble landscape. Consider the elaborate apologies and rituals of welcome that greet a visiting dignitary such as the esteemed Baron Radcliffe. These are not mere courtesies. They are crucial, carefully orchestrated performances designed to establish and reinforce hierarchy, to acknowledge relationships, and to signal mutual respect, or at least the appearance of it. The clattering of hooves announcing his arrival, the fluttering of banners bearing his familial crest, the formal bows and curtsies exchanged upon his dismounting, all these elements create a grand yet emotionally demanding spectacle. Every detail is weighed, every action scrutinized. A misstep here, a perceived slight, could not only damage your personal relationship with the Baron, but could also jeopardize the political alliance his support might offer. It's an exhausting charade. You find a constant expenditure of emotional energy to uphold the intricate and utterly unforgiving rules of this sophisticated game. Perhaps the most taxing expectation of all is the mask of composure you and indeed all nobles are expected to wear. You must bear physical discomfort, even excruciating pain, with stoic dignity. The raging fire in your gout-afflicted foot, for instance, must be hidden behind a nobleman's mask of composure, a serene, unreadable expression that betrays nothing of the agony beneath. Showing weakness, revealing your pain or distress could be perceived as a political liability, a chink in your armour that rivals might exploit. It could undermine your authority, weaken your alliances, and invite unwanted scrutiny. This intense emotional labour, this constant internal battle to maintain an outward facade of strength and unshakable resolve, is a silent, profound suffering that few outside your privileged class could ever truly comprehend. In the midst of these demanding social performances, you're not entirely alone in your silent struggle. Lady Lelaniner, your astute and perceptive wife, possesses a diplomatic acumen that often proves invaluable. You've seen her subtly signal the steward during a lavish feast, a mere flicker of her eyes, a slight inclination of her head indicating that your plate should be simpler, less laden with the rich fare that aggravates your gout. Later, when the pain becomes too much, she discreetly offers you a small vial of poppy tincture, her hand brushing yours under the table, a silent gesture of comfort and understanding that speaks volumes. These actions highlight the sophisticated, often unspoken communication and diplomacy required to navigate noble social events. It's a constant vigilance, a shared effort to maintain appearances while acknowledging the very real, very personal challenges you face. Her quiet strength and unwavering support are, you realise, a rare fortune in a world where noble marriages are often purely transactional. Even humour, that universal solvent, operates within strict social boundaries in your world. While minstrels might entertain with their comic tales and bawdy songs, their jests are carefully vetted, designed to amuse without offending the powerful. You recall Baron Radcliffe during a particularly boisterous moment making a jest about peasants not suffering from gout. There was beneath the jest a truth that highlighted the stark class divides and acknowledgement of the peculiar burdens of your shared station. Yet, you could only agree diplomatically, a polite chuckle, your only response ever aware of the social tightrope you walk. To laugh too heartily, to agree too readily, or to appear too self-pitying could all be misconstrued, weakening your image of stoic strength. It is a world where even a laugh must be carefully measured, a nuanced response to a layered reality. Beyond these intricate personal dynamics, the very culture of your nobility is rooted in a particular kind of performance, conspicuous consumption, often manifesting as what is wryly known as the disease of kings. This isn't simply about owning lavish things. It's about publicly displaying them, about demonstrating your wealth and power, for all to see, a constant, extravagant show that forms the very bedrock of your social standing. The demand for lavish feasting, for example, extends far beyond personal indulgence. It is a critical social obligation, a political performance where your table must groan with food and wine must flow freely. Anything less would be a signal of decline, a crack in the facade of your prosperity. The grand preparation of the great hall for such events is a theatrical endeavour in itself. Fresh rushes mixed with sweet-smelling herbs are scattered across the floor. Tables are meticulously covered with fine linen, and seating arrangements are precisely choreographed to reflect hierarchy. All of this creates a magnificent yet ultimately demanding stage for these essential displays of noble power. Your clothing too serves as a crucial non-verbal form of communication, a veritable walking billboard of your status. Fine wool, often a deep blue from the renowned weaving centres of Flanders, lined with imported silk and adorned with intricate embroidery, instantly signals your rank and prosperity. These garments are not merely for warmth or modesty. They are symbols speaking volumes before you even utter a word. Even your modified shoe, designed to accommodate your aching, gout-afflicted toe, must be managed discreetly, its alteration minimized to maintain the illusion of effortless perfection. You would never wear a crude obvious splint for that, would announce your vulnerability to all, a stark reminder that even your suffering must be cloaked in dignity, a private agony in a very public life. this constant need to display your status through lavish consumption and spectacle, from the food that graces your table to the silken garments you wear and the impressive grandeur of your manor, is you soon realize a significant burden of wealth. It's a relentless, unspoken obligation. Anything less than a dazzling performance of prosperity would suggest weakness or decline, potentially jeopardizing your political standing and inviting predatory ambition from rivals. You're keenly aware of the cost, not just in coin, but in effort, in constant vigilance, in the very energy it saps from your days. There are moments, quiet ones, perhaps late at night, when you gaze at the remnants of a feast, the half-eaten joints of meat, the overflowing trenchers, and you find yourself reflecting on the sheer scale of it all. You might even murmur to Lady Elena, the waste from our table alone could feed several tenant families. It's a bitter truth, a quiet guilt that gnaws at the edges of your privileged conscience, a stark reminder of the disparity between your abundance and the ever-present threat of hunger for those who sustain your wealth. This is the very essence of what one might call the golden cage of expectations. You, and indeed many like you, are trapped within this glittering prison, bound by the unyielding demands of your position. Even the king himself, Henry IV, suffers severely from gout, a condition brought on by the very excesses his station requires him to maintain. He too is forced into a cycle of feasting and drinking, not merely for pleasure, but because his position demands it, because anything less would be perceived as a lack of power or resources. You recognize this pattern in yourself, acknowledging the profound irony that excess, even when it appears enviable, carries its own punishments. Your lavish lifestyle, designed to project power and solidify status, is simultaneously undermining your health, a slow, agonizing self-destruction, orchestrated by the very rules of your world. Is rather like being commanded to dance beautifully while your feet are secretly on fire. The performance, you understand, is paramount, while the actual pain is at best a minor footnote. It is in navigating this treacherous social landscape that Lady Elena's diplomatic skill truly shines. She understands the delicate balance, the need to maintain appearances while also caring for your well-being. She doesn't openly challenge the culture of excess. Instead, she subtly reframes it. When a physician suggests a simpler diet for you, she doesn't present it as a reduction or a deprivation. No, instead, she speaks of it as refinement, emphasizing quality over quantity, focusing on the finest ingredients prepared simply, and advocating for discrimination rather than abstention. It's a masterful stroke, a sophisticated negotiation of cultural expectation that allows for moderation without undermining your social position. You're not cutting back. You're simply elevating your palate, showing a more sophisticated taste, a connoisseur's preference for elegant simplicity over vulgar opulence. It's a brilliant facade, a quiet rebellion against the golden cage that manages to respect its bars while finding a way to breathe within them. This clever adaptation allows you to move closer to a healthier life, without losing face, a testament to the intricate social intelligence required to survive and thrive in your elevated world. This very suffering, this disease of kings, far from being a weakness, becomes a strange, almost perverse mark of your elevated status, a symbol understood, and even in a twisted way respected among your peers. Indeed, gout is not just an ailment. It is widely recognized as the disease of kings and nobles, almost a perverse mark of status. It's a condition that openly broadcasts a life of abundant food and leisure, a luxury utterly unavailable to the common folk. This makes your suffering, ironically, a socially acceptable excuse for certain breaches of etiquette. If you must lean heavily on your cane, or if you wince imperceptibly when rising, it is understood not as a sign of weakness, but as an affliction of your class, a badge of your noble standing. You, Lord William, bear this pain with a strange mixture of resentment and a quiet, almost morbid pride. It's a testament to the fact that you live a life of such indulgence that even your body rebels against it, a testament that no peasant could ever claim. While your peasants face the constant grinding realities of malnutrition and exposure to the unforgiving elements, the nobility confronts different, perhaps more insidious torments. Gout in this context serves as the hidden cost and cruel irony of your privileged life, a direct physical price paid for your social position. The swelling, the redness, the exquisite tenderness of your gout-afflicted toe resembling, as Master Gilbert once observed, a ripe red plum hot to the touch, pulsing with an internal fire, becomes a highly visible and undeniably painful symbol of your status. You can hide the internal battle, but the physical manifestation is there, a silent throbbing sentinel announcing your noble burden. It's a constant tangible reminder that your wealth, far from insulating you from all suffering, merely redirect it into different, often self-inflicted channels. The article repeatedly emphasizes this profound irony that the very luxuries of your noble life, the rich foods, the sweet-spiced wines, the sedentary habits that keep you ensconced in your manor, rather than toiling in the fields, are precisely what cause your suffering. This stands in stark contrast to the simple, often healthier diets and physically demanding lives of the working classes. They eat what they can grow, they walk, they labour their bodies honed by necessity. You eat what you desire, you ride, you sit, your body softened by choice, and that softness opens the door to this agonizing affliction. It's a bitter pill to swallow both literally and figuratively, knowing that the very things that mark you as superior are simultaneously eroding your well-being. During a shared meal, perhaps Baron Radcliffe might acknowledge his own struggles, leaning back slightly in his chair, a wry smile playing on his lips. "Ah, a touch of it myself, my lord," he might admit, gesturing vaguely towards his own foot. "A common complaint among us, wouldn't you say?" This unspoken understanding, this shared burden among the nobility, creates a peculiar kind of bond. It's an acceptance of a common suffering, a quiet fraternity of pain from the common ailment of your class. You nod a slight knowing curve to your own lips. It is a shared secret, a painful thread that connects you to your peers, an affirmation that even in your higher station, you're not immune to the consequences of your collective lifestyle. This communal aspect of suffering provides a strange comfort, a sense that you're not alone in this gilded torment, yet it does little to alleviate the fire in your foot. As you navigate the intricate landscape of your noble life, you find that spiritual frameworks and deep-seated superstitions offer both solace and at times another layer of understanding for the challenges you face. Your personal library, as you observed earlier, consists primarily of religious texts. This isn't merely a matter of personal piety. It reflects the pervasive influence of Christian faith that guides moral conduct, shapes societal norms, and offers a profound sense of solace in a world rife with uncertainty, disease, and the constant threat of war or famine. You often seek tranquility of mind through contemplation in the small chapel. Within your manor, the cool stone walls and the flickering candlelight providing a quiet sanctuary for reflection. Here, away from the clamour of the court and the demands of your estate, you can wrestle with your personal pains, your moral dilemmas, and the paradoxes of your privileged existence, seeking guidance from a higher power. This spiritual retreat is a crucial part of your mental and emotional well-being, a quiet anchor in a turbulent world. For your peasants, spiritual practices are equally vital, often intertwined directly with their approaches to healing and daily survival. You recall the illness of John Weaver's wife, a wasting sickness that gripped her. Her family, unable to afford an expensive physician like Master Gilbert, would have combined traditional herbal medicine passed down through generations with fervent spiritual intervention. They would have paid for prayers to be said at the parish church, a small offering for a petition to the heavens. This reflects a deep-seated belief in divine healing, a hope that God's grace coupled with practical remedies might bring recovery. For them, faith isn't an abstract concept. It's a living, breathing part of their struggle for survival, a constant companion in the face of insurmountable odds. Medieval medicine itself, you come to understand, is a complex tapestry woven from various traditions. There's the Galenic system of humours taught in the nascent universities, which Master Gilbert rigorously adheres to. This theory posits that the body is governed by 4 humours: blood, phlegm, yellow bile and black bile, and an imbalance among them causes disease. Then there's the rich herbal knowledge derived from monastic infirmaries, the folk remedies passed down through generations in the villages, and occasionally the superior knowledge that trickles in from the more advanced medical traditions of Islamic and Jewish physicians. Master Gilbert, with his university training, bases his practice firmly on this theory of the 4 humours, meticulously explaining that your gout, my lord, is a direct result of an excess of phlegm or choleric humours in your joints aggravated by your rich diet. Even in Master Gilbert's prescriptions, you find a blend of perceived efficacy and status display. His new preventive remedy designed to ward off future attacks includes crushed gemstone sapphires to cool the inflamed humours, rubies to warm and invigorate. This reflects a persistent medieval belief in the medicinal properties of precious and semi-precious stones, a fascinating intersection of perceived healing and undeniable luxury. It's a remedy only a lord could afford, another subtle reminder of the unique, often extravagant nature of your care. The gentle sheen of the powdered stone, the knowledge of its intrinsic value, adds a layer of reassurance that this treatment is not only potent, but also fitting for your station. Master Gilbert, in his quiet wisdom, extends his counsel beyond mere physical remedies. He often advises you to manage the passions, anger, anxiety, melancholic thoughts, as they too can inflame the blood and contribute to conditions like gout. This highlights a sophisticated medieval understanding of a deep connection between mental and physical well-being, an early recognition in its own way of psychosomatic effects. Your emotional state, you learn, is not separate from your physical body. It is intrinsically linked, a feedback loop where stress and anger can literally exacerbate your bodily pains. This realization prompts moments of introspection, encouraging you to seek not just physical comfort, but also emotional equilibrium, a quiet pursuit of inner peace amidst the external demands of your rank. The chapel, with its serene silence, becomes even more important in these moments of self-reflection. Interestingly, this complex web of academic medical theory and aristocratic remedies often finds echoes in the humble folk wisdom of your tenants. You might on occasion hear of a peasant woman's remedy for joint pain, a simple poultice containing nettles, willow bark and meadow sweet. These ingredients gathered from the local fields and forests mirror some of Master Gilbert's own botanical prescriptions for their anti-inflammatory properties. This demonstrates a practical observational medical knowledge passed through generations, distinct from academic theory, but often surprisingly effective. It's a reminder that even without the university training or expensive gemstones, people find ways to alleviate suffering drawing on the wisdom of the land itself. This shared, if differently expressed, pursuit of healing underscores a universal human desire to overcome pain regardless of station. Now let us turn to the most intimate and foundational relationships in your noble life, love, marriage and family. In your world, marriage is rarely, if ever, a spontaneous act of romantic love. Instead, noble marriages, including your own union with Lady Elena, are typically pragmatic alliances meticulously arranged for political and economic advantage. They are strategic contracts designed to forge powerful bonds between families, consolidate lands, expand influence, and secure your lineage for generations. Your wedding, you recall, was not primarily about hearts entwined, but about banners joined, about the exchange of dowry and properties, setting a distinctly practical and often emotionally reserved tone for many noble relationships. You are, in essence, a living extension of your family's power, and your marriage is one of its most critical pillars. Despite these pragmatic origins, you're profoundly grateful that your union with Lady Elena has over the years evolved into a partnership of genuine respect and affection. This, you understand, is a fortune not guaranteed in many noble marriages, where duty often overshadows genuine connection. Lady Eleanor is far more than a political asset. She is a crucial partner in every sense. She provides practical care, managing your household with extraordinary diligence, ensuring its smooth operation. More than that, she offers intelligent counsel, her keen mind often providing insights that cut through the complexities of your political and administrative duties. You recognize her strength, her foresight, her quiet wisdom, especially during your times of suffering when her support becomes an indispensable anchor. This quiet bond forged in mutual respect and shared responsibility is a testament to the enduring human capacity for connection, even within the rigid structures of medieval society. Lady Eleanina's profound level of personal care and understanding of your condition and social obligations is particularly evident during the demanding crucible of a noble feast. You recall her foresight in instructing the cooks for a simpler plate for you, ensuring that amidst the lavish spread for your guests, your own sustenance would not exacerbate your suffering. Later, her discreet provision of poppy tincture offered with a subtle gesture that only you would recognize demonstrated a deep attentiveness to your needs, providing comfort and support precisely when you most needed it, without drawing undue attention to your vulnerability. These are not grand declarations of love, but quiet acts of service and empathy, speaking volumes about the depth of her affection and her commitment to your well-being. This kind of partnership, built on quiet understanding and mutual support, becomes a precious sanctuary in a world that often demands outward strength and emotional resilience. The practice of fostering noble children, which we touched upon earlier, further shapes the emotional landscape of noble family life. While it is deemed necessary for building character and crucial social connections within the noble class, it undeniably creates emotional distance from their birth parents. You may find yourself with a quiet ache in your heart for your older children, knowing they are growing up in another household, learning lessons and forging bonds that you're not directly privy to. It's a sacrifice made for the greater good of the family lineage, for the continuation of your power and influence. Yet the small, quiet pleasure you find in the presence of your younger children who are still under your roof underscores the bittersweet contrast of this familial separation. Their innocent laughter, their unburdened play are fleeting moments of pure, unadulterated joy that are cherished all the more, because you know they too will soon depart for their own fostering arrangements, preparing for their inevitable fixed roles in the grand, intricate theatre of medieval society. Contrasting sharply with this strategic fostering and the emotional distance it creates is the immediate and intensely integrated family life of your peasants. Their children remain with them inseparable members of the family unit, working alongside their parents from an early age. Their education is in the fields, the kitchen and the workshop, a shared labour that binds them together. Their relationships are defined by shared daily survival, by the constant struggle against the elements, by the need to put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. There is little time for abstract thought or elaborate social graces. Life is raw, immediate and intensely communal. This forms a physically integrated family unit where every hand is needed, every mouth to feed is a direct participant in the collective effort. It's a stark difference from the strategic, often emotionally detached arrangements of the nobility, a world where the very definition of family is shaped by necessity and class. Ultimately, you come to understand that perhaps the most pervasive worst thing about being rich, more powerful than any physical ailment, is the immense weight of clan identity, where reputation is in fact the ultimate currency. In medieval society, an individual's identity is not a matter of personal choice or unique expression. Know your identity, and indeed the standing of your entire family is inextricably linked to your reputation. It is more valuable than gold, more enduring than stone castles. A shimmering, fragile thing that shapes every aspect of your existence. It dictates your alliances, influences the marriage prospects of your children, and determines the extent of your political and economic influence. A good name, a strong reputation is the legacy you strive to build and protect, for it is the foundation upon which your entire world rests. You learn with a quiet intensity that an individual's actions, particularly those of a lord like yourself, have far-reaching generational consequences. The whispers of weakness, of decline, of any perceived failing on your part do not merely affect your current standing. They ripple outwards, touching the future prospects of your children, potentially diminishing their marriage alliances, weakening their claims to power, and casting a long shadow over the entire lineage. Your behaviour, your decisions, your very public presentation are therefore not personal matters. They are weighty responsibilities that carry the hopes and burdens of generations. This immense pressure necessitates a constant suppression of individualism. Your personal comfort, your private desires, even your physical pain are often suppressed in favour of maintaining the collective family and class reputation. This you realise is an ultimate worse thing for individual autonomy. The feeling that your very self is subsumed by the demands of your name, your station, and the expectations of a society that values the collective far above the individual. The profound influence you wield as a prominent noble is a constant subtle force. You're acutely aware that others at court copy whatever you do. Your choices, even seemingly personal ones like dietary changes, are not private. They are public acts scrutinised and often emulated. If you, Lord William, begin to eat more, simply others might take note, might slowly begin to adopt similar habits. Perhaps reframing it as Lady Elena so cleverly does as refinement. This ripple effect means that your personal decisions have potential social ramifications that could bolster or diminish your clan's standing. It's a powerful, almost unsettling awareness of your own impact, turning even mundane choices into strategic considerations. Maintaining a pristine public image is paramount. The meticulous care taken to present an image of prosperity and power, from Lady Elena's exquisite gowns to your own fine garments, even as we noted to the discreet management of your modified shoe, is a daily conscious effort. This is true even, or perhaps especially in times of personal distress. To reveal too much to appear truly vulnerable would be to invite disaster. Safeguarding the family's standing and preventing any far-reaching impact of scandal is a constant, diligent endeavour. A lord who falters, who shows too much weakness, risks not only his own position, but the very future of his house. The weight of this expectation, the constant performance of strength and imperviousness, is a heavy cloak indeed, often suffocating the man beneath the noble facade. Now, having explored the intimate personal struggles and the intricate social pressures that define your gilded cage, we gently pivot to the foundational realities and overarching structure of your medieval world. While personal suffering and social pressures are the immediate visceral worst things you encounter, they are profoundly shaped by the immutable systemic conditions of the medieval world. These macro-level contexts provide the bedrock for all lived experiences, creating the very stage upon which your personal dramas and those of your tenants unfold. Understanding these larger forces is crucial to comprehending the inescapable constraints and opportunities that define your existence as Lord William Thornbrook. The first of these foundational realities is the inescapable social hierarchy, the very blueprint of medieval life itself. The inescapable social hierarchy is, you find, the very blueprint of medieval life, an omnipresent force that dictates everything from your daily meals to the fate of your children. Medieval England in 1398 is not a place of fluid social mobility or individual aspiration. It is characterized by a rigid feudal system where social class is largely immutable, determined by the simple, unchangeable fact of your birth. Each person's life trajectory, their duties, their privileges, and their limitations are all preordained by their station. There is little hope of upward mobility, no real expectation that a peasant might become a lord, or even a prosperous merchant in your lifetime. This fixed destiny, you realize, removes a certain kind of anxiety, the pressure of striving for something unattainable, but replaces it with the stark reality of inherent constraint, a life path carved out by forces far beyond individual will. You, Lord William Thornbrook, represent the apex of local power within this system. You own vast lands stretching as far as the eye can see, fields of grain, ancient forests, and numerous villages where your tenants reside. Your life is one of relative leisure and sumptuous food, a stark, almost unimaginable contrast to the daily existence of the common folk who work your lands. They face the constant grinding threat of malnutrition and exposure, their lives a precarious dance with nature's whims and your lordly demands. This fundamental divide between lord and peasant is not merely a social distinction. It is the bedrock of medieval society, the unshakable foundation upon which the entire edifice rests. You are the protector and the provider. They are the labour and the sustenance, a symbiotic yet profoundly unequal relationship. Within the broader English feudal hierarchy, you occupy the gentry level. You are one of the richest nobles in the county, wielding significant local authority over your tenants, managing the day-to-day affairs of your estates and dispensing justice. Yet you are also subordinate to higher nobility, to powerful barons, and ultimately to the king himself. This position comes with immense privilege, yes, but also with immense responsibility, and the constant pressure of maintaining your standing within this complex multi-tiered system. You owe fealty, you owe service, and you owe loyalty, not just to those above you, but to the intricate web of relationships that define your world. The gentry, in a way, forms the essential connective tissue between the high lords and the land itself, ensuring the continuous flow of wealth and authority. Despite the stark power imbalance that defines this system, you also recognize a fundamental, if unequal, interdependence. The peasants, through their ceaseless labour, produce the wealth, the crops, the wool, the goods that allows you to live a life of comfort and to maintain your position. Without their toil, your manor would fall silent, your coffers empty. In return, you as their lord are expected to provide protection from external threats, to dispense justice in your manorial court, and to offer a measure of stability in an often chaotic world. This creates a delicate balance, a reciprocal relationship where each segment, though vastly different in power, is essential to the functioning of the whole. It's a social contract unwritten but deeply understood that underpins the entire feudal structure, ensuring its fragile continuity from one generation to the next. Beyond mere function, the very symbolism of rank permeates every aspect of medieval life, acting as an instant powerful signal that reinforces the social order. You observe this most vividly in clothing. Your own attire of fine wool and imported silk, perhaps, a rich deep blue, contrasts sharply with the undyed wool tunics, simple linen shifts, and often bare feet of the peasants gathered in your manorial court. Their garments, rough and practical, speak of labour and necessity, while yours speak of leisure and abundance. These visual cues are not subtle. They're immediate and unmistakable, instantly communicating status, power, and privilege. A glance is all it takes to understand where someone stands in the grand hierarchy of your world. It is a constant, silent declaration, a pervasive visual language that everyone understands, from the lowliest serf to the highest noble. And yet, despite these profound differences in station and circumstance, the article highlights a fundamental truth. Different hardships for different stations, but hardships nonetheless. This underscores a universal human vulnerability to circumstance, a shared fragility that transcends the rigid social strata. For you, the Lord, it is the disease of kings, gout, with its searing, debilitating pain, a self-inflicted torment born of excess. For your peasants, it is the constant physical toil, the ever-present threat of starvation, the brutal grind of survival that never truly relents. Each experiences suffering, though the nature and source of that suffering are vastly different. Your gold and your stone walls might insulate you from some forms of hardship, but they introduce others, proving that no one, regardless of their position, is truly immune to the trials of existence. The world, you realize, is simply designed to be difficult to truth. It seems determined to prove in its own unique ways for everyone. The core economy of your world, and indeed the very foundation of your power, is agrarian. Your wealth and influence are inextricably tied to the land which stretches for miles, vast fields, ancient forests and numerous villages all under your dominion. This isn't just property, it's the engine of your existence. The rhythm of the seasons dictates the rhythm of economic life, a constant dance between growth, harvest and dormancy. Your estate's wealth is directly derived from the agricultural labour of your peasant tenants, who cultivate the land, tend to the animals, and perform the myriad tasks that transform soil into sustenance and profit. The success or failure of a harvest can ripple through your entire world, affecting both your personal fortunes and the lives of thousands. It is a stark, undeniable connection to the earth, a constant reminder that even as a lord, your prosperity is ultimately tied to the natural world and the sweat of your tenants' brows. Peasants, you understand, pay part of their rent not in coin, which is often scarce, but in kind, primarily in crops. This means that the grain harvest is a direct determinant of both your income and the general prosperity of the estate. A bountiful harvest means full granaries, increased revenues for you, and sustenance for your tenants. Conversely, a poor harvest means hunger for the peasants and reduced revenues for you, creating a shared economic fate, a fragile interdependence between lord and tenant. The prospect of a lean year casts a long shadow over everyone, fostering a deep-seated anxiety that permeates every level of society. You, Lord William, may not feel the pangs of hunger directly, but you feel the anxieties of diminished returns, the potential for unrest, and the very real threat to the stability of your carefully constructed world. Beyond the annual cycle of crops, wool exports represent another significant source of income for your estate. Your lands produce significant wool for export to Flanders, the renowned weaving hub of Europe. This engagement with broader European trade networks means that your local fortunes are not solely dependent on the immediate harvest, but can also be influenced by distant markets and political currents. A good shearing season and strong demand from the Flemish clothiers can bolster your wealth considerably, providing a crucial supplement to your agrarian income. It connects your quiet English countryside estate to the bustling ports and mercantile centres of the continent, a silent but powerful reminder of the intricate global economy that even in 1398 subtly shapes your prosperity. However, this engagement with the wider world also means you're not immune to the vagaries of royal policy. The king's imposition of a new tax on wool exports, for instance, directly impact your noble income and constrain your trade relations. You might find yourself grumbling inwardly at such an imposition, as if the royal coffers weren't already brimming, seeing a portion of your hard-earned wealth diverted to the royal coffers, perhaps to fund a distant war or a lavish court. This illustrates how macro-level governance, the decisions made by the king and his council, far away in London, can directly affect the local economy and the prosperity of all within it, from your own family down to the humblest shepherd. Your power is great, yes, but it is always circumscribed by the ultimate authority of the crown. The lavish consumption at your noble table, which we have discussed as a source of your personal suffering, also highlights a stark disparity in resource allocation, and at times a quiet inefficiency within your noble household. You recall your earlier observation, the waste from our table alone could feed several tenant families. This isn't just a rhetorical flourish, it's a tangible reality. The sheer volume of food, often partly consumed and then discarded, contrasts sharply with the desperate scarcity experienced by many of your tenants. This potential for waste, while perhaps unavoidable, given the demands of conspicuous consumption, is a constant source of quiet friction, or at least an area ripe for potential reform if one were brave enough to challenge centuries of tradition. It serves as a stark reminder of the ethical tightrope you walk, balancing the demands of your station with the moral obligation to your people. To manage this complex agrarian base and the flow of resources, you rely on a dedicated network of officials. The steward and bailiff are crucial figures forming the administrative backbone of your power. The steward is responsible for the overall financial and administrative management of the estate, overseeing servants, handling accounts, negotiating with merchants, and ensuring the smooth running of the manor house itself. The bailiff, meanwhile, is more directly involved with the agricultural lands and the peasant tenants, assessing building materials, overseeing harvest records, and ensuring the efficient cultivation of your vast properties. These individuals are your eyes and ears, your hands and feet, without whom the intricate machinery of your estate would grind to a halt. Their diligence and loyalty are paramount, for they are the direct implementers of your will, ensuring that wealth flows into your coffers and that order is maintained across your lands. As you consider the intricate economic machinery of your estate, you are constantly reminded that all human endeavours in your time are ultimately subject to nature's relentless fury, the universal threats emanating from an unforgiving land. Winter, for instance, is not merely a season. It is a constant companion of medieval life, a pervasive presence that shapes every decision, every expectation. You watch from your lofty windows as blankets of snow transform the familiar landscape into a hushed, stark wilderness. Delicate patterns of ice forming on every exposed surface. Inside your manor, even with your thick stone walls and roaring hearths, a penetrating cold demands constant vigilant fires. Without them, the chill would seep into your very bones, leaving you vulnerable. Beyond your walls, travel becomes treacherous roads turned to impassable quagmires or frozen traps isolating communities, and making trade or communication incredibly difficult. It's a time of hunkering down, of relying on stored provisions, and of quiet endurance, a period when the world outside seems to hold its breath. Yet winter is not the only threat. Nature, in its broader sense, holds many dangers. Natural disasters, though not always as grand as an earthquake, are a constant terrifying reality. Village fires, for example, are a constant danger in medieval villages where thatched roofs open hearths, and the desperate need for warmth create conditions ripe for disaster. You've seen it, the smoke rising in the distance, the frantic shouts, the heartbreaking scramble to save what little can be salvaged. A single spark, a carelessly tended fire, can engulf an entire hamlet in moments. Such an event is especially devastating in winter, when few rebuilding options exist until spring. Families lose everything overnight: their homes, their meagre possessions, their stored food. The grief and hardship are widespread, a brutal reminder of how tenuous existence is for the common folk, how quickly everything can be snatched away. For you, the Lord, it means potential loss of rent, a disruption to your estates, but for them it means utter destitution and the stark prospect of perishing from exposure. Beyond the immediate sudden calamities, there are systemic threats that hang over everyone, though with vastly different impacts. The constant worry about having enough food is a deep-seated anxiety that permeates every layer of peasant life. As winter progresses, stored provisions dwindle, and the prospect of famine or severe scarcity becomes an ever-present spectre. A poor harvest, a blight, a prolonged frost, any of these can tip the balance from sufficiency to starvation. For the majority of your tenants, this is a harsh, visceral reality that dictates their daily lives, forcing them to conserve, to ration, to endure pangs of hunger that you in your well-stocked manor can only imagine. While you might worry about diminished revenues or the cost of imported grains, they worry about their children's survival, about simply making it to the next spring. This pervasive fear of scarcity is a fundamental part of the medieval experience, a constant drumbeat of anxiety in the background of existence, influencing every decision and every prayer. Illness, too, is a constant, insidious threat in your medieval world, a universal leveller that respects no social boundaries, though its impact and treatment certainly vary. You've heard the grim reports, a wasting sickness afflicting several families in one of your villages, a quiet horror that steals strength and life slowly. In the close quarters of winter, disease spreads with terrifying speed, moving from hut to hut, manor to manor, fueled by poor hygiene, inadequate nutrition, and a profound lack of advanced medical understanding. A simple fever can become a death sentence. A common cold can turn into a lethal lung ailment. You, Lord William, are not immune. Your own gout, while distinct, is a reminder of the body's fragility. While you have the luxury of Master Gilbert with his university training and expensive remedies, your tenants often have little more than folk cures prayers and the desperate hope that the illness will pass. The vulnerability of all to contagion, to the invisible forces that bring sickness and death, underscores a shared human frailty, a common thread of fear woven into the fabric of daily life. Unlike modern times where systemic relief efforts are expected after disasters, your medieval world offers no such formal safety net. Direct material assistance after catastrophes like fire or widespread illness is often a matter of individual lordly conscience rather than established feudal duty. While you're expected to provide protection and justice, there isn't a codified system for disaster relief. This makes your personal intervention, your decision to offer aid, not only crucial, but often unexpected, a profound act of benevolence that can earn you deep gratitude and loyalty. To ride out to a burned village with provisions to offer a measure of relief is to go beyond what is strictly required, demonstrating a compassionate leadership that can cement your bond with your people. It's a moment when the abstract duties of lordship become intensely personal and deeply human. Even the natural world, in its raw, untamed aspects, presents primal threats that underscore the fragility of human settlement. Winter's harshness, for instance, sometimes leads to wolves driven by hunger to approach human settlements. You hear the reports, the anxious whispers in the village, the protective instincts that rise in your heart. These predatory animals add another layer of danger to travel and daily life, especially for those venturing beyond the manor walls into the desolate forests or across the open fields. A simple journey to the next village can become a perilous undertaking, a constant reminder that human dominion over nature is never absolute. This primal threat lurking at the edges of your carefully constructed world adds an undercurrent of wildness and danger to the medieval existence, a stark contrast to the secure, predictable rhythms of modern life. Within this established hierarchy, and against the backdrop of these powerful natural forces, the mechanisms of power and the human responses to its unyielding nature, whether in governance conflict or evolving leadership, further define your medieval world and your personal struggles. These are the intricate gears of authority, the subtle levers of control, and the ways in which people from the highest lord to the lowest peasant react to the forces that shape their lives. It's a system where power is not merely exerted, but lived, felt, and responded to in every interaction. The very practice of this unyielding power hierarchy in all its daily manifestations defines your role as lord. The unyielding power hierarchy in practice means that your authority, Lord William, over your tenants is absolute, yet it functions as a cascade flowing down from the king through higher nobility and ultimately to you, the gentry. You collect taxes, ensuring the economic engine of your estate continues to hum. You offer protection both from external raiders and perhaps more often from the chaotic whims of a less ordered world. And crucially, you judge disputes in your manorial court, bringing a measure of order and justice to the lives of those who live on your lands. This isn't a theoretical power. It's a tangible daily reality for your tenants demanding unquestioning obedience. They look to you for guidance, for fairness, and for the final word on matters that profoundly affect their lives. You're in essence their local sovereign, a direct link in the great chain of command, a living embodiment of the king's distant authority. Yet you're also keenly aware that your own power, though significant locally, is always subject to the overarching, often unpredictable power of the king. We discussed how the king's ability to impose a new tax on wool exports directly impacts even wealthy nobles like yourself. This serves as a stark reminder that royal power can shift fortunes and alliances with a single decree. You're a powerful lord, yes, but you're also a vassal obligated to the crown, and the king's will, however distant, is the ultimate authority. This relationship requires careful navigation, a constant awareness of court politics, and a diligent effort to remain in the king's favour lest his gaze turn unfavourably upon your estates. Your authority, while formidable to those below you, is always relative to those above. Strategic alliances are not a luxury but a political necessity in your world. You understand this perfectly as you host a visiting baron, a potential ally whose support you need, in the intricate dance of regional politics. Enduring personal pain, the throbbing in your foot, the fatigue in your bones to fulfill your host duties is not merely a matter of courtesy, it is a critical investment. The lavish feast, the warm welcome, the attentive conversation, all are carefully orchestrated to foster goodwill, to strengthen bonds and to secure the support that could prove vital in a future dispute or a shift in royal favour. This highlights the constant, diligent effort required to maintain alliances within the noble class, to project power, and to ensure the stability and security of your own position. It's a continuous performance, a political chess match played out over meals and conversations where every move, every word carries weight. As an influential noble, you also recognise that you are a trendsetter, a subtle shaper of broader aristocratic behaviour. Your awareness that others at court copy whatever you do is a powerful, almost unsettling realization. If you adopt a new style of dress, if you change your dietary habits, if you pursue a particular interest, others, perhaps lesser nobles hoping to rise, or simply those seeking to emulate success, will take note and often follow suit. This makes even your personal choices a public act with potential social ripple effects that can bolster or diminish your clan's standing. It's a subtle form of control, a quiet influence that radiates outward from your position, shaping social norms and defining aristocratic conduct. You're not just Lord William. You're a living example, a model for those who aspire to your station, and that brings with it a unique, often demanding responsibility. To maintain your far-reaching authority, and to ensure the smooth functioning of your estates, you, Lord William, rely on a well-structured network of officials and delegated administration. The steward, as we've noted, is your chief administrative officer, managing your household, overseeing finances and ensuring the manor operates efficiently. The bailiff is the eye on your agricultural lands, responsible for overseeing tenants, collecting rents, and ensuring the productivity of your fields. And then there is the household chaplain, not merely a spiritual guide, but often a literate man who handles religious duties, yes, but also keeps records, writes correspondence, and performs other tasks requiring literacy, a valuable skill not always possessed by even the most powerful lords. These individuals are extensions of your will, ensuring the continuous flow of power and the diligent management of your vast holdings. They are the practical hands that implement your decisions, allowing you to focus on the broader political and strategic concerns of your lordship. Their loyalty is paramount, their efficiency critical to your success. Lady Elelenina's role in this governance, though traditionally seen as domestic, is far from insignificant. Her diligent management of the household, her astute overseeing of the kitchens and provisions, and her exceptional skills in hosting guests are not merely matters of comfort or personal preference. They are vital components of maintaining the family's reputation for hospitality, a crucial aspect of noble power. A well-run household, a generous table and a welcoming atmosphere enhance your political standing and influence, sending a clear message of prosperity, order and strength. Her work, often invisible to the outside world, directly contributes to your family's prestige, and by extension your own authority and standing within the wider noble hierarchy. Her quiet competence is a pillar upon which much of your external success rests. Now let us delve into the legal and enforcement mechanisms that are an intrinsic part of your lordship, your role as judge. You preside over the manorial court, a solemn gathering held within your great hall or perhaps in a designated court building. This court serves as the primary arbiter of local justice for your tenants. Here you settle disputes that arise in the daily lives of your people, boundary disagreements between neighbours, conflicts over the miller's fees, questions of cottage rights, compensation for livestock damage, and countless other small but vital matters. You dispense justice according to local custom, and perhaps more tellingly according to your own sense of fairness and wisdom. This fundamental aspect of your lordship makes you not just a landowner, but a living, breathing embodiment of law and order within your domain, a powerful figure whose decisions carry immense weight. In these legal proceedings, you're not entirely alone in your judgment. Your steward, with his deep knowledge of estate management and tradition, often advises you on local custom and precedent, ensuring that your rulings align with the established practices of the land. The bailiff, meanwhile, provides crucial information on specific fields or tenants involved in a dispute, offering context and details that aid you in making informed judgments. Their expertise forms a vital layer of support, helping you to render decisions that are both just and conducive to the overall productivity and harmonious relations within your estate. You learn to weigh their counsel carefully, understanding that their practical knowledge is indispensable in the application of justice in your local world. To ensure the integrity and historical record of your judicial proceedings, all judgments delivered in your manorial court are formally recorded in court rolls. These meticulously kept documents serve as the legal memory of the estate, providing a structured framework for the application of local law and precedent. They document your authority, your decisions, and the fines or punishments levied, creating a clear, tangible record for posterity. You can refer back to these rolls for similar cases, ensuring a degree of consistency in your judgments, or to recall past disputes and their resolutions. These rolls are more than just bureaucratic necessities. They are the written embodiment of your judicial power, a testament to the order you impose upon your lands and a historical archive for generations to come. One of the fundamental obligations of tenancy in your feudal system is labour service on the domain land, the lord's own fields, which must be ploughed, sown and harvested to feed your household and generate your wealth. The enforcement of this labour service is crucial to your economic power and your authority. To neglect it is not merely to shirk a duty, but to commit a serious transgression against the very fabric of the feudal contract, potentially undermining the entire system. You expect your tenants to arrive when called to work diligently, and to fulfill their obligations, for their labour is the lifeblood of your estate. It is a constant reminder of the direct link between their toil and your prosperity, a powerful manifestation of the power dynamic. The case of John Weaver, however, presents a profound dilemma, one that forces you to balance the strict enforcement of feudal obligations with your responsibility as a lord to show mercy. John Weaver failed to provide his required labour service, a clear breach of his tenancy. But the reason for his absence was deeply personal and compelling: his wife's debilitating illness. Here you are faced with a choice: uphold the letter of the law, perhaps punishing John Weaver with a fine or further labour, thereby reinforcing your authority, but potentially pushing a family already in distress closer to destitution. Or you could show compassion, waiving the penalties, offering a helping hand, and perhaps earning loyalty that no strict enforcement could ever achieve. This moment highlights the inherent human element in medieval justice, underscoring your capacity for compassion and the profound impact your decisions can have on individual lives. There's a nuanced tightrope walk between power and empathy. The legal system you oversee while providing order also reveals a fundamental aspect of medieval life, the limited nature of individual rights. There is no concept of universal human rights in your time, no codified protections for the individual against the will of their lord. The absence of explicit individual rights means that your will, tempered by local custom, by the precedents recorded in your court rolls, and by your own sense of justice and mercy, is often the ultimate law for your tenants. They have little recourse beyond your judgment. This creates a profound power imbalance, a recognition that your word carries immense weight, shaping destinies with a single decree. While you strive for fairness, you are acutely aware of the vast authority you wield, an authority that is both a privilege and a heavy burden. Now let us turn to the subtle yet powerful mechanisms of control that operate through expectation, the shadow of death and honour. In your noble world, bearing suffering is not just a personal matter, it is a performance. Nobles are expected to confront physical discomfort, such as the agonizing fire of gout, with stoic dignity. To show pain, to openly wince or complain, could be interpreted as a political vulnerability, a chink in your armour that rivals or enemies might exploit. Such a display could compromise your honour and standing, signalling weakness to a world that values unshakable resolve above all else. You learn to internalize the pain, to mask it behind a composed expression, to carry yourself with an air of imperviousness, even when every step is a fresh agony. This expectation, this relentless pressure to maintain a facade of strength, enforces a deep emotional suppression, turning personal suffering into a private burden that must never be publicly acknowledged. Reputation, as we've discussed, is the invisible mechanism of social control, a currency far more valuable than gold. Any perceived failure to uphold noble standards, being unable to host important guests due to illness, for example, or appearing overly indulgent or weak, can lead to whispers. These whispers are potent, capable of damaging your honour, undermining your alliances, and diminishing your family's standing. This acts as a powerful deterrent, forcing you to prioritise outward appearance and social obligation, even when your body screams for rest and solitude. The fear of these whispers, the fear of a tarnished reputation, is a constant, subtle pressure that shapes your every public act. Your determination to attend the feast despite severe pain, and Lady Elelanina's tireless efforts to facilitate your attendance, perfectly demonstrate the critical importance of performing one's duties honourably. It's not just about enjoying the meal, it's about presenting yourself as a capable, unyielding lord fulfilling your social obligations. To be absent would be to signal weakness, to invite speculation, to risk perceived disrespect. This public performance, this agonizing personal sacrifice is paramount for maintaining your social standing and avoiding any perception of decline. You understand that sometimes the most honourable act is to endure quietly, to suffer in silence, to ensure that the delicate facade of noble strength remains unbroken. The disease of kings, gout, thus becomes a painful mark of status that becomes its own prison. It forces nobles into a cycle of excess lavish meals, rich wines, a sedentary life that, while enhancing their public image of prosperity and power, simultaneously undermines their health. This links honour directly to self-inflicted suffering, demonstrating the profound paradox of privilege. You are compelled to participate in the very activities that cause you pain, all in the name of upholding your status. It's a gilded cage indeed, where the bars are woven from expectations and tradition, and the cost of entry is a constant, quiet agony. Your body, you realise, pays the price for your name. The stark realities of mortality also shape your world, though your noble perspective on death might differ from that of your common tenants. For peasants, death is an ever-present reality, a constant shadow cast by disease, famine and hard labour. It is often met with a kind of stoic acceptance, a pragmatic recognition of its inevitability, especially for the elderly or the infirm. They see it as a natural, if often brutal, part of the life cycle, a less elaborate relationship with mortality than the nobility might possess. Their mourning is often immediate, deeply felt, but also practical as life demands continued labour and survival. You, Lord William, with your access to physicians and comforts, might face death with a different kind of contemplation, perhaps a fear of leaving your legacy unfinished, or a concern for the spiritual state of your soul. Yet the inevitability remains a powerful reminder of human limitations regardless of one's station. Within this harsh reality, you begin to observe and perhaps even to cultivate the seeds of discontent among your people. Peasants face relentless hardships from the excessive taxes, like the new royal tax on wool exports, which might indirectly affect their prosperity by reducing demand for their goods or increasing their lord's burden, which is then passed on to their constant vulnerability to famine from poor harvests and the occasional corrupt official who seeks to exploit their desperation. This creates an environment ripe for discontent, a low hum of dissatisfaction that, if ignored, could potentially escalate into unrest. You're aware of the fragility of order, of the fine line between stability and rebellion, and the importance of addressing the underlying causes of hardship. John Weaver's case, which we touched upon earlier, vividly illustrates how illness can profoundly disrupt a peasant family's economy. His wife's wasting sickness meant he could not perform his labour service, which in turn meant he couldn't earn other income or tend his own meagre plot. This forced difficult choices, fulfill feudal obligations, and let his family suffer or attend to his sick wife and face penalties. This underscores the precarious existence of your tenants, where a single illness can plunge a family into irreparable destitution. Their lives are a constant negotiation of limited resources, unforgiving demands, and the ever-present threat of collapse. You observe this with a growing sense of responsibility, recognizing that your actions or inactions can have profound consequences for their very survival. The winter months, already a time of hardship, intensify peasant suffering dramatically. Dwindling food stores become a desperate concern as families watch their meagre provisions disappear, knowing that spring is still a distant hope. The spread of illness in close quarters, exacerbated by the cold and poor nutrition, takes a heavier toll. And then there is the sheer challenge of fighting the cold itself with insufficient weapons. Thin clothes, damp huts, meagre fires that offer little warmth against the biting wind. This highlights their extreme vulnerability, the pervasive fear of the elements, and the constant grinding battle against a nature that seems indifferent to their plight. You, in your heated manor, can only dimly perceive the depth of their struggle, yet it is this perception that begins to shape your evolving understanding of what it means to be a good lord. Your own evolving response to these peasant hardships marks a subtle but significant shift in your approach to lordship. Faced with John Weaver's predicament, you make a conscious decision to show mercy, waiving the penalties for his missed labour service. This is a departure from strict feudal adherence, a recognition that sometimes human need must take precedence over rigid obligation. More significantly, after a devastating fire sweeps through the village of Oakley, leaving several families homeless and bereft, you decide to offer direct material assistance, food, building materials, and medicine. This goes beyond what custom or feudal obligation requires, and signifying a personal choice to act with protection and care, rather than simply collecting rents and services. You're not merely a distant figure of authority, you're becoming a tangible source of relief and compassion. This commitment is underscored by your personal ride to Oakley to survey the fire damage despite the treacherous winter roads. This is no mere administrative decree from your warm solar. It is direct hands-on intervention. Such a journey, especially in the depths of winter, marks a significant departure from typical noble behaviour, emphasising a more direct empathetic response to your tenants' distress. You see the devastation with your own eyes, you speak with the grieving families, you understand the magnitude of their loss. This act of personal presence cements your commitment to their well-being, earning you profound peasant gratitude and surprise. They're not accustomed to such direct benevolent engagement from their lord. This is not just policy. It is a deeply human connection, forging a bond that goes beyond the strictures of feudal law, hinting at a new, more involved kind of leadership. This evolving understanding of your obligation of lords toward their people is part of a larger internal transformation. Your gout, that painful companion, has forced you to confront the golden cage of expectations that has bound you, revealing the paradox that privilege unchecked can lead to self-destruction. You wrestle with what you now perceive as the worst thing about being rich, the societal pressure to consume and indulge in ways that are quite literally harming you. This agonizing realization propels you on an introspective journey, forcing you to question long-held assumptions about wealth and power. Your recurring attacks, each one a searing reminder of your body's rebellion, compel you to confront what it means to be a good lord. Is true lordship merely about accumulating wealth and wielding power, or does it lie in wisdom, in moderation, in the cultivation of a life that balances privilege with restraint? You begin to seek a more sustainable way to inhabit your privileged position, understanding that fulfilling the demands of your rank without falling victim to its excesses requires charting a new course, one that goes against deeply conservative societal pressures and deeply ingrained personal habits. This is a profound internal struggle, a redefinition of your very identity as a noble, driven by the quiet lessons of pain and a growing sense of broader responsibility. Indeed, your suffering, once a source of bitter complaint, slowly transforms into a peculiar kind of blessing. It becomes a painful reminder of human limitations that even wealth and power cannot overcome. The gout, with its relentless throbbing, strips away the illusion of invincibility that your privileged position once afforded you. It leads to profound insights about the paradoxes of power and privilege that had long been obscured by your status, by the sheer volume of your wealth, and the constant demands of your rank. You learn that true strength might lie not in endless consumption, but in thoughtful restraint, not in unquestioning adherence to tradition, but in a willingness to adapt and evolve. This is a wisdom forged in the crucible of personal agony, a hard-won understanding that reshapes your core beliefs. This evolving perspective subtly but tangibly translates into a more sustainable way to inhabit your privileged position. You find it influencing your actions in the manorial court, evident in your decision to show mercy to John Weaver, recognizing the human stories beneath the legal obligations. It guides your direct aid to suffering tenants such as those in Oakley, demonstrating a more hands-on, empathetic approach to your exercise of power. This isn't just about charity. It's about a fundamental shift in how you perceive your duties and your relationship with those who depend on you. You're moving beyond the mere collection of rents and the enforcement of laws towards a more active role in the well-being of your entire community, understanding that your prosperity is inextricably linked to theirs. The narrative of your personal transformation then suggests a profound idea that societies might evolve not through grand revolutions or dramatic upheavals, but through individual revelations that gradually reshape how power is understood and exercised. Your internal journey, this quiet re-evaluation of your role and responsibilities, is a subtle yet significant ripple of change. It's a reminder that even in a rigidly structured world, individual conscience and personal suffering can be powerful catalysts for change, slowly altering the moral landscape of leadership. You, Lord William, become a testament to this, proving that sometimes the most impactful shifts begin not on the battlefield or in the royal court, but within the quiet contemplation of a single individual grappling with the truths of their own existence. Ultimately, gout, the disease of kings, becomes a formidable teacher whose lessons might in time benefit king and commoner alike. It offers a profound lesson in balance that extends far beyond diet and personal health to the very exercise of authority and human connection. This painful enlightenment transforms you into a better lord, one committed to a more moderate and caring approach to both your own life and the lives of those under your care. You understand now that true power lies not just in what you possess, but in how you steward it, and in the compassion with which you treat your fellow man. The gilded cage, once a source of torment, has become a classroom, and its lessons, though harsh, have led to a wisdom that transcends the confines of your own privileged life. As the last echoes of Lord William Thornbrook's story fade into the gentle quiet of the night, allow your mind to drift away from the stone walls and rigid hierarchies of 1398. The intricate dance of status, the silent burdens of privilege, and the peculiar pains of abundance all now recede into the soft shadows of history. You can almost feel the cool, clean air of your own time, a soothing contrast to the often smoky, damp reality of a medieval manor. Think of the simple comforts around you. Now the warmth of your modern bed, the silence unbroken by the distant howls of hungry wolves, the peace of a life where a sore toe is simply a sore toe, not a symbol of your entire social standing. Let the image of Lord William finding wisdom in his suffering remind you that even in the most gilded cages, human experience remains complex, full of unexpected challenges and quiet transformations. His journey from rigid adherence to nuanced understanding, from excess to a search for balance, is a gentle whisper across the centuries, a timeless lesson. As the world outside your window quiets down and the last remnants of today's thoughts begin to soften and blur, allow yourself to release any lingering tension. The past has offered its lessons, and now it's time for rest. Feel the weight of your body settling, the gentle slowing of your breath. All the worries of the medieval world, and indeed all the worries of your own day, can now simply melt away. Rest deeply, knowing that the tapestry of history will always be here, patiently waiting for your return.